Hello guys, welcome back to another tutorial. My name is Divine and if this is the first time here, you're welcome to Styles by Andre. Also, if you're a returning subscriber, thank you for stopping by once again. So in today's tutorial, I'll be showing us how to cut and sew this stylish bustier dress here. I already drafted out our pattern in our previous video, so please do well to watch the video so you understand properly. So the first thing I'll be doing on my pattern now is to close up my darts on my yoke, and I'll be taping it down after closing it up, so I can cut out my front yoke. So after cutting out my front yoke here, I'll be cutting out my side front and my center front and my side front. So we'll be throwing out this darts. Then I'll be creasing my bust darts on this side of my pattern. I'll tape it down. Then I'll blend the side of my pattern here, then cut out the excess. So this is what we have for our front block. So this is the center front, this is the side, and the two middle. Now I'll be cutting out my back drafts. I'll cut out my back yoke and the bodies of the back, and I'll also be labeling it out so we don't sew the down for the up. So these are the fabrics I'll be using for today's tutorial. I have about 4 yards of the pink fabric and 1 yard of the green fabric. So I'm going to iron stay to the pink and the lining piece. I'll be cutting on my pattern now, adding 1/2 inch allowance all round and 1.5 inch sewing allowance to the side and the zipper allowance. Now I'll cut out my wording for my center front and my side front piece. So now I won't allow my wording get to the top of my fabric, so it's easy for me to sew there. I'll be coming out by 1 inch and I'll be placing the cider with the gum on my fabric. I'll pin the wording on the fabric and take it to my machine and stitch with 0.25 using loose stitches. I'll do the same for the side. The side with the gum will face the fabric, and I'll pin it down and stitch with 0.25 inches, and my wording stops under my under bust. So this is what I have here. Now I'll be joining the side piece to my center front piece and I'll be pinning it. I'll pin it carefully, after which I'll mark 1/2 inch, take it to my machine and sew on the 1/2 inch mark. So please make sure to always pin this part. I'll mark 1/2 inch now and sew 1/2 inch. I'll do the same for my lining piece. Now my lining piece does not have wording. I'll just be sewing it like so. And this is what we have after doing that. So this is my fabric here and my lining piece. So I'll just go ahead now and iron it. I'll make sure I iron it properly. I'll be opening up the allowance and iron it so it stays in place. So for my back now, I'll be removing my pins and be sewing my darts for both my main fabric and my lining piece. I'll be sewing my darts of 5.5 inches on the 4 pieces of my back pattern here. So now for my front yoke, I'll be folding my fabric into 2 and be placing my front yoke on my pieces, and as you can see, the center front of my piece of my pattern is on the center front of my fabric. So my yoke at the middle or at the center front will not have a joining. I'll add 1/2 inch around this pattern except the neckline, and I'll do the same for my back yoke. I'll add 1/2 inch sewing allowance all round except the neckline. So this is it. I will also cut out the lining piece for this yoke. So this is what we have. I'll open up my front yoke now, and I'll make sure the right side of the lining is facing the right side of the fabric, and I'll sew 1/2 inch on the neckline. I'll do the same for my back yoke. I'll open it up and make sure the right side of the lining is facing the right side of the fabric of the main fabric. Then I'll sew 1/2 inch all the way. So this is what we have after sewing, and I'll be stitching down the down so it stays in place. Now for my bodice of the back, I'll be making sure the zipper allowance stays where it's supposed to be. Then on my pattern now, before I mark my yoke, I left allowance of 2.5 inches. So I'll be marking that same 2.5 inches before I place my yoke. So I'm supposed to have marked out my zipper allowance of 1.5 inches first before marking out the 2.5 inches. So I later corrected this in this video. So I'm supposed to leave 1.5 inches before taking out my 2.5 inches. So that makes it 4 inches. That's where my yoke should start from. So I later corrected it. So I pinned it down like this, placed my lining on it, and sew using 1/2 inch. After sewing with 1/2 inch on the zipper allowance side, I sewed it all the way using 0.25 inches. So I used 0.25 on this side, then I turned it over, then stitched it down together. So this is it, guys. I already corrected my zipper allowance here. Okay, just to reiterate, 2.5 inches. I took out my 1.5 for zipper allowance first before taking my 2.5 inches. So by the time I take in my zipper allowance like this, you can see that the two yoke at the upper part came together. That's how it's supposed to be. So I've ironed out my front panel now. Now to sew my yoke on my burstier, I'll be picking up the midpoint of my blouse with the midpoint of my yoke and pin it down. So we have to carefully pin this pattern, and we'll be pinning just one side because of the sweetheart neckline there. So to fix the sweetheart neckline is a bit tricky, so pinning it down first is advisable. So I'll take it to my machine after pinning one side and sew, after which I'll remove my pin and try to sew the second side. So I've done that. See, our yoke came out well. Then I'll be turning it with my lining. I'll also pin my lining in place before sewing. So I've gone ahead to do that now. Now I'll be turning my shoulder with the back, and I'll be picking up the midpoint of my front shoulder with the midpoint of my back shoulder. I'll pin it together. Then pin the main fabric to main fabric, then the lining to lining. This is so I can have an invisible finishing on my shoulder. So I'll pin it lining to lining and fabric to fabric, making sure the midpoint of the front and back piece is together. So if I sew it, this is what I'll be having. You can't see the finishing here. So the next thing I'll be doing now, I folded 3 yards of my pink fabric. I'll be marking from my half length to my gown full length of 39 inches plus 2 inches for folding allowance. So I'll cut it out. Then I'll open up these 3 yards of fabric and divide it into 2 equal halves. After which I'll get the front I'll be using one for the front panel and one for the back, and I'll be dividing the back into two also. So for the front now, I'll get the midpoint of the front, and I'll be placing one side of the front, and I'll make sure what is on my blouse from one side of my blouse to the midpoint of my blouse is equal to what I have on the pleats on one side. So I have 8.75 for my pleats, and I also have 8.75 from the midpoint of my blouse to this side. So now I'll be doing that for the second side. So it means the second pleat too must be 8.75, because that is what is on my blouse. So I'll carefully pleat this pattern, and I'm doing a kissing pleat here. You can do whatever pleats of your choice you want to do. So after pleating, I'm going to make sure the full measurement on my blouse waist is equal to the full measurement on my skirt waist, so I can now join the blouse to the skirt. So I'm going to carefully measure what I have, and when I'm sure it's aligning, I can now join the top to the bottom of my dress. So this is what we have. I'll pin these two parts now and sew using 1/2 inch. I'll do the same for the back. I'll pleat and also make sure it's equal to the back waist, and I'll join it together. So this is it. This is what we have, and I've done that. Now I'll be fixing my zipper to this dress. After which I'll cut a long strip of bias. You can use your bias tape, or you can cut your lining piece to turn in the armhole. Because this is a sleeveless dress, I'll be turning in my armhole. So I've done that here. Next thing I'll be doing now is to fix the structure on my dress. I'll be measuring where I want the structure to start all the way to the back. And after measuring here, I have 15 inches. So I want my structure to be 3 inches wide plus sewing allowance. That will make it 4. So I'll be marking 4 inches by 15 inches plus sewing allowance also, that's 16. So I'm marking 4 inches by 16 inches. I'll mark it out, you can see 16 inches. I'll cut it out, and I'll be cutting 2 pieces of this for the front and for the left and the right sleeve. So this is it, guys. Now I'll be ironing my stay on it, like a soft gum stay or a soft collar stay. I'll be ironing it on this 2 piece here, and I'll turn it out, making sure to finish all the edges. So now I'll be pinning one of these on the line I've marked. I'll mark the line I want to place this structure on. I'll chalk it down so I know exactly where the structure will be on. I'll mark it all the way to the back. So guys, if you find this video very helpful, kindly share this video, subscribe to the channel, and also click on the notification bell so you get updated anytime we post a video on this channel. Thank you. So I'll be placing my structure now on the right side. I'll pin it down, then take it to my machine and sew on it. So after sewing now, I'll move my structure to the left. So I'll pin it down on the right now. After sewing, I move it to the left. So I'll carefully pin it all the way, and I'll be sewing on it using about 0.125 inches, or you can use 1/4 inch if you like. So this is how I'll be pinning it to the end. Then I'll sew using 0.25 or 0.125. Then I'll move it to the other side after sewing. I'll do that for the left, and this is what we have, guys. Our dress came out so well. You can see our structure, how it's standing, and our pleats on our dress. So thank you for watching today's tutorial, guys. And please, if you've not subscribed already, kindly subscribe to the channel and see you in my next video. Bye for now.